everyone, my name is Love, and in this video I just have decided to share my experience when I was in Abu Dhabi. I would like to say it as a bad experience, but as time goes by, there are a lot of learnings that I have learned from that experience. It really took a while for me to process those experiences that I had. Eventually, I have learned how to move on from that experience, let go. One of the testimony of how God have worked. It has been, I would say, 6-7 years ago that this happened. So going back, I went to Abu Dhabi to work as a nurse, as OFW. So I'm under work permit. I just took exam and then I passed the exam, paid the processing fee. I think it was 21,000 pesos. I worked there and everything was fine. I loved the experience. I enjoyed staying there, like working there for 2 years. I work as a home care nurse. The employer will send nurses to the patient's houses, so individually, to take care of a patient. So during my time, my first patient was an old lady and I cannot remember the diagnosis, but I think she had stroke, but it was a very shocking experience to me because being a new nurse in Abu Dhabi, I don't know yet how to speak in Arabic. I still have to learn. So on the first few weeks of my training orientation and then just getting to know how home care works, I encountered my very first crab mentality experience. It was one of the senior nurses who have been working there for months or years now. I don't even know, but she has been with this family for a long time and the family really liked her. And the daughter of the patient that I am taking care of was close to this senior nurse. And I just found out from the kadama, which means the maid serving the family, that this nurse was talking behind my back to the daughter, saying that I am just a new nurse there and I don't speak Arabic, etc. That was very shocking to me because you are also a Filipino. We went to the same country, and then just because I took your position or I took the spot, she wanted to only work there. But since they needed new nurses to be trained in one patient, so she didn't like that there's new nurses there. And I was shocked. I did not know what to do. I just let it go that time. I just didn't care, whatever, just put me somewhere else because I'm just starting and I'm just learning, right? But the good thing is the maid, the kadama, was talking good about me to the daughter of the patient. So eventually, even though I didn't speak Arabic, the daughter liked me because she sees how I cared to her mother. Mind you, the maid was a different culture. I think she's Indonesian. And that's one of my realization, I never experienced grab mentality back home as far as I know. And moving to another country, it was mind-blowing for me. Yeah, so that was one of my bad experience. After 3 years, I have renewed my contract because I was still waiting to go here to Canada. And it was taking a while. And for me, I need to find a job that is paying more because as we all know, being a nurse in the Philippines, it's not that much. So I had the chance of opportunity to just work in Abu Dhabi and stay there. And then I renewed my contract for another 2 years. But on the third year, just few months after my renewal, I got the most awaited email from the Immigration of Canada saying that they approved my application to become a permanent resident here in Canada. And I have waited for that email for 5 years. I was so full of emotions. All I think about is how can I quickly go to Canada and leave Abu Dhabi. But at that time, I didn't realize the damage that it will cause just to fight going here to Canada with my employer. One of the red flag that my employer did to us was they took our passport. And I just found out then that it was illegal to take someone's passport. And it's not a rocket science, but it was just I was so naive. It was my first time for me to work in another country, and I was like, okay, so what should I do? So I politely asked them for my passport, and they asked me for a reason, and I told them honestly that I just need my passport to get stamped by the Canadian immigration, and they didn't like it. And I was like, okay, so what should I do? Because that's my passport, and there's like a due date for the passport to get stamped. So a lot of back and forth conversation, and finally they came up with the idea of that I have to either stay for 3 months working without pay so that to not breach my contract. And the second option was to pay them in cash the 3 months of my salary. And I was so full of emotions that time because it's a big money. And the feeling of I really wanted to go to Canada because that was my original plan ever since the Abu Dhabi. And so I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go to. I didn't know who to talk to. And all those emotions, and then talking to them, the HR, the admin. Mind you, they're all Filipinos. And there was this one incident that I wanted to bring an older person, a friend with me going to the office to talk about it because I needed a support. I needed someone like a witness with me. And they did not like it that I am bringing someone with me to talk to them because the other Filipinos said to me that you're already old enough to have a meeting with them, and I didn't need someone with me because I am old. I am not a kid anymore. And I was like so mad about it because the reason of me bringing someone is what if they do something to me? What if, and I needed a witness of whatever is going to be happening on that conversation. And so this Filipino HR manager, this Filipino admin, we went to this room and they closed the door and they bullied me. I cannot go on the detail anymore of what did they said to me, but I found myself crying and helpless. And I left that office with frustration and a plan in my head that I'm gonna go to the police to tell what happened. But my relatives and my mom just told me to just pay them and leave as soon as possible because they didn't want anything that can ruin my name as I am going here to Canada. So what I did, I paid them the 3 months of my salary, cold cash, and I immediately gave my resignation effective immediately and booked my ticket back to the Philippines. And in the Philippines, I booked my ticket going to Canada. I remember that experience. I also even shared it on a Facebook group with Abu Dhabi Filipino nurses. And I was very emotional that time. The questioning like, why did it have to happen to me? Why am I always making wrong decisions? Why did it has to happen? A lot of questionings of did I make the right decision? Up until when I moved here, I'm just thinking that experience is not gonna happen again. So that's why I'm very careful with the management of my employer, that I have to always have anything written on a paper, and I always have to know my rights. And I know everyone has different experiences and everyone has different tolerance of those experiences. But for me that time, the only person that I go to is God and my family. And it was a very not a good experience, but it took me a while to analyze what happened to that situation and how could I have reacted differently if I am the person who is more calm and more aware of what's going on, and just took the lessons from that experience. It's not always going to be rainbow and sunshine. Something good will happen, something bad will happen. But I always think that if you feel like your situation is falling apart, the next thing that will happen is you're gonna be in a new environment, new situation where everything will go right. So, and that's it for my experience. But to sum it up, it was a good experience for me working in Abu Dhabi, working in another country aside from the Philippines, because it developed a lot of strength in me. I have developed skills that I needed to where I am right now as a nurse here in Canada and as a thriving career woman who wants to be not employed in the future. Because, I deep down inside, like that experience made me change my perspective for a long term, that I don't want to be stuck with someone like an employer to always tell me what I needed to do, and I want to be my own boss someday. So yeah, and that's it, and see you next time. Bye.